Hi class, in this tutorial I want to show you how to use adjustment layers to tweak the colors in your stop motion animation.
So this is my example stop motion. I'll just play it so you know what I have going on. Okay. So with this, I want to first add an adjustment layer. So an adjustment layer is like an empty holder that you can put effects into. It will hold the effects and apply them to the layers underneath, but it won't actually disturb the layers underneath. So this is a non-destructive way of working, and it means that if you decide, oh my gosh, I hate this, you can just delete your adjustment layer, turn off the visibility of your adjustment layer, and you're back to your original. So we'll go ahead and click on our library and then go to File, New, Adjustment Layer, hit OK, and then drag and drop that on top of your project. Then I'm going to click the back end of that and expand it out to be the same length as my entire film. It can be as long as you want it to be if you want to change your effects later, the effect duration later. So now I'm going to click my adjustment layer, and I'm going to go over here to the right, and I'm going to type Lumetri, Lumetri, and I'm going to look for this Lumetri color and drag and drop that right onto my adjustment layer. You see that has now made this effect panel called Lumetri Color pull up over here on the left. So I'm going to just go through one by one what all of these different things do. So this top bit here, these are masks. So if you click a mask and apply it to your project, you can move this mask around, and you will affect only what's within that mask with your edits on this with this effect. So let's say I'll do something kind of extreme so you can see what I'm talking about. Let's do contrast. So you can see that I've pulled up my contrast here, and it's only affecting inside of this mask. So I'll maybe make this even more noticeable. And this can be really helpful if you're like trying to maybe just focus the viewer on one thing in your scene. But I actually want to affect everything, so I'm going to get rid of that mask and move on from there. Okay, so underneath our masks, we have this input LUT under our basic corrections here. So a LUT is a file which has all of these changes saved into it. So if someone is editing videos all day, every day, they may know that they always want their videos to be fairly warm, and they always want their shadows to be fairly dark, and they've gone through this and they've edited over and over and over again. They don't want to change this on every single video, so they save a LUT, and then when they import it, these changes will come automatically. So for us, this isn't really helpful because we're just doing 4 projects, and each one of them is quite different in flavor, so we're not going to bother using LUTs. Moving on from there, we have white balance. So if you use the white balance dropper and select something in your scene that is supposed to be white, it will change your temperature and tint so that that area you've selected is the true white. So temperature and tint go from blue to orange for temperature, and from, take this back down, from green to magenta for tint. So the idea with these are that they kind of compensate for fluorescent and incandescent light. So incandescent light, like a normal household lamp, is quite warm, is quite orange. So to counteract that, you need to add a little bit of blue. And fluorescent lights are kind of green and awful and soulless. So to counteract that, you need a little bit of magenta. Moving on from there, we have saturation. Saturation is just how strong the colors are in your image. So this affects every single color. It tries to make every color more itself. Underneath that we have light. So our light section has exposure. So exposure affects every single pixel. So if you go up, it makes every single pixel lighter. Go down, it makes every single pixel darker. So a little bit goes a long way here with exposure. Contrast will pick the light, so it'll pick the midpoint, and everything that's above the midpoint it will make brighter, and everything below the midpoint it will make darker, so it makes things kind of more black and white. Highlights just pick above the midpoint to adjust. Shadows pick just below the midpoint to adjust. And whites and blacks are really good for clipping, so I have a lot of blown out whites here, so I might want to pull that back. And now I have a little bit too much black in here, so I'll push that up a little bit and try to make this sort of more balanced, right? Underneath our light section, we have our creative section. So the first thing we see here is look. You can pick a preset here. So these are all just like part of Premiere Pro. And they're kind of extreme, these looks. They kind of remind me of Instagram filters. So you can definitely go through these and see if there's anything there that you like. I often find that they're kind of a little bit too much, but you know, worth a shot. Underneath that, we have our adjustments. So faded film, it kind of knocks down the black. The idea is that when we had like actual film photography, it wasn't great at capturing deep blacks. So it can kind of mimic that with our faded film effect. Sharpen will find areas of high contrast and make them even more contrasting. Vibrance is a lot like saturation, except it leaves skin tone colors alone and only affects muted green areas. So let's see if I can find the scene that has a lot of muted green. Okay, so maybe here we can increase our vibrance or knock it down maybe. So very little vibrance here, a lot of vibrance. And you can see that the brown changed less than the green changed in this. And saturation just makes everything more colorful. We can also tint your shadows and highlights as if like just putting a colored screen over them. So these also can be really fun to play with. Can do some really interesting things with your wheel there. Underneath that we have our curves. So this initial light curve, basically you are mapping one tone to another. So right now it's linear, which means the tone that goes in is the tone that comes out. But if we do this, now if a tone is sort of already kind of dark, it's going to go even darker. And if we do this, if a tone is already kind of bright, it's going to come out brighter. So this is like increasing contrast a little bit. But we can do this to every color. So you can really get kind of crazy, and you really can get kind of crazy with your curves if you do wild things to them. So that's an interesting thing. Now we have hue versus saturation, hue versus hue, all of these selectors. So these ones I always kind of have to think about when I'm doing them. So think about what comes in and what goes out. So if a hue comes in as brown, it's now going to go out more muted, right? Because I'm changing the saturation of that area. So you can do this for each and every one of these. So hue versus luma is, okay, if something is now more blue, I'm going to make it come out more luminous, so having more white in it. Okay, we're getting an effect there. And this is something that can be like really helpful if you're wanting to say, I just want red in my scene and everything else is black and white. You can do that with these selectors. So the next thing I want to point out to you is this vignette. So a vignette affects the edges of your composition. So we can set a vignette. Okay, this is going to white, but I'm going to do black instead. You can affect how far out it goes, how much it feathers. So this can be nice if you're doing sort of an older film look here.
Another effect that you may be interested in is black and white. So let's go ahead and type black and white in our effects panel. Black and white. We can drop that onto our adjustment layer, and you can see that it's turned our project into black and white. And of course, if you shorten your adjustment layer, you will snap out of black and white. So that's one of the great things about adjustment layers, is how flexible they are. All right, class, that was adjustment layers. I'll see you in the next video.